Hey guys, so today I'm giving a review on the Deathadder V3 Pro from Razer. It's a new shape, a new Ergo shape. While it's called the Deathadder, it isn't really the same as the original. They revamped the sizes, the sides. I mean, for example, it flares out much more in the original, but you can look up the differences on Google. It's 128 millimeters long, 68 wide, and 44 high. And coming from a mouse like the X2, which is ambidextrous and a little bit smaller, it took me a little while to get used to it, maybe an hour or two. But I eventually did find a good grip on it, which is kind of weird though, because I grip it on the edge right here of the mouse. It doesn't hurt me or anything, so it's fine. But not having used an Ergo in like 1 to 2 years and coming from a much different mouse, it took me a little while, but it's fine now. I'm really comfortable in it. The only thing that is not as comfortable as I wanted yet are sprays in CS, but flaking, bursting spraying is fine. The mouse comes in at 63 grams. For a mouse this size, without holes, it's pretty insane that they got it down to this shape, to this weight, sorry. And it being this solid, like I have no issues with build quality whatsoever. I can squeeze it, nothing's budging. It's crazy actually. The mouse buttons compared to the old Deathadder are separated from the shell now as well. They move just a tiny bit side to side, but they barely move. And I don't really notice anything in game about them, so just amazing build quality. Like I don't know how they did it with a mouse this size. Insane. So I have medium to large size hands, and I did need to find a play claw grip. I did need to find my grip a bit. But like I said, after a while, it was fine. It isn't really as back humped as the X2, which is probably why it took me some time to get used to. But it's perfect for claw grip. I'm really comfortable on it now. One last thing about the weight that I forgot to mention. The X2 weighs 56 grams and the Deathadder 63. It is not that big a difference, but those 7 grams heavier on the Deathadder and the bigger shape of the Deathadder does make it feel a bit more stable, I guess I should call it. I feel more stable in CS. I don't know. With the X2, I would have good sprays when I sprayed someone down with an AK, but I would also have sometimes insanely horrible sprays, so it felt a bit inconsistent. Well, with the Deathadder, I'm not good with spraying yet. However, it's consistent. I don't have super insane sprays or and then later on I have horrible sprays. It's like consistently mid sprays, I guess you could say. So I guess it feels way more consistent, and it's not something I would have expected since it's that drastically different from what I've been using the past few years. But yeah, overall it's good. I like it. The coating on the mouse kind of feels like a keycap on a mechanical keyboard, a PBT keycap. I do like the X2's coating over the Deathadder V3. It feels a bit more grippy. It doesn't feel like a keycap. It feels more like a Superlight, but not the same. But it's fine on the Deathadder, the keycap coating, I guess I could call it. It doesn't really get slippery or whatever, but it's a bit worse than the X2 in my opinion, but still decent. It does the job. It's not a hinder in any way. They're using their latest 30K optical sensor, their own. I think they trademarked or patented it as well. I don't really know the difference or notice the difference between the 3395 and the 3370 myself. The only thing I care about is whether it flicks randomly or it malfunctions, but I don't have any issues with it myself. They're using their new updated Gen 3 optical Razer switches, which are amazing. They feel light, spammable, and really responsive. I like these over the Kyo 8.0s on the X2. There are different switches. The Razer ones are optical and the X2 ones are mechanical. Yeah, I really like the Deathadder clicks. I have zero issues with them. There's basically no pre-travel and barely any post-travel. Zero issues with them in game as well. Just love to use these, especially on like Tech 9 pushes. You can really smash someone's head in with this. It's amazing. The scroll wheel, as you can see on the X2 compared to the Deathadder, is much lower on the X2. So the higher scroll wheel was something it's probably next to the shape the thing I had to get used to the most. I sometimes accidentally scrolled when I moved my mouse or whatever. But now that I got used to it, it's actually nicer because I can reach it earlier than on the X2. And it scrolls much smoother, I guess you could say. The steps on the X2 scroll are much more defined and much more... you can notice them more when scrolling. And the steps in the Deathadder scroll wheel are much lighter, and it's overall better scrolling experience in my opinion. Especially if you have jump bound to scrolling down in CS or up. The side buttons are fine. I don't have anything bound to them in CS, so I only use them while browsing. Barely any pre-travel as well, a little bit of post-travel, the same as on the main clicks. No issues with them for me. The Deathadder is capable of 4K Hz with the special dongle. As you can see, I have the normal one. For 30 euros extra, or a total of 175 if you buy the bundle, you get the hyper polling dongle, it's called, where you can use the 4K Hz polling rate. But I don't have that, so I personally don't know whether it has an effect, a noticeable effect. From other reviews, I've heard that it lowers the response time, but how that feels, I have no clue. I will buy it myself, probably after the ESEA season, which ends in December sometime. I will make a video about that once I get it in hand. The mouse feet are 100% PTFE. I'm more of a control type person myself, so I don't need like crazy skates. So these are fine for me. They're almost basically the same as on the X2. I have no issues with them. No harsh edges out of the box, so perfect. It has a 90-hour battery life with 1K Hertz polling rate. If you use 4K Hertz, it lowers from 90 to 24 hours, which is quite a big cut. But you do also, on paper, get a much higher performing mouse, I guess, with the lower response time. I think the 90 hours is overkill on 1K Hertz, but I guess you need that headroom if you want to implement 4K Hertz as a manufacturer. So we will probably see even more battery life in the future with 1K Hertz, probably like up to maybe 120. So you get even more when enabling 4K Hertz. That's probably the only reason I think it's acceptable to have this much on a mouse. If you're someone who doesn't charge their mouse every other day and you're just lazy, that's my thoughts. But okay. So yeah, in short, all in all, I'm happy with my mouse. Do I think it's worth 160? For me, yes. I want a high performing mouse, and eventually I want to use the 4K Hertz, which this mouse can use. If you're someone who isn't able to spend the money and wouldn't be using the 4K Hertz anyway, I would not buy this mouse, especially if you're not going to use the 4K Hertz. There are probably other mice which are twice as cheap, like the X-Lite V2, which are good options as well. You could also take a look at those. I think if you don't take it as serious and you're more of a casual player, you'll probably be better off with the X-Lite V2, which is twice as cheap. Or you can wait like a few months to a year until this hits sale. Sometimes maybe it drops 10 to 20 euros in price, I don't know. But until then, if you don't want like the best of the best as an Ergo mouse, you should probably be better off with the X-Lite V2. A friend of mine has it and he's been very pleased with it. As a casual gamer, he has no issues with it. So yeah, thank you for watching.